Phil Mickelson's wellness story looks stranger than the lawsuit claim itself. Mickelson, fronting for wellness, Dave Phillips, still beside him. Across golf feeds, a bombshell spreads around the former PGA Tour star. The contradiction changes everything. One figure is being described as a nutritionist of 12 years, while $680,000 appears beside his name without a verified complaint. The story then became personal when fans started repeating, "He ghosted me for 8 months." That line felt believable because it sounded private. It gave the silence a motive before anyone checked whether those words came from Phillips. His public position tells another story. Phillips remains listed as a co-founder, making the suggestion that he sues him difficult to accept without evidence. Still, the suspicion did not appear from nowhere. Phillips helped shape the coffee routine behind Mickelson's reset. Phil carried the image in front of every camera, then Kiawa turned that routine into part of golf history. Brooks Koepka became the opponent everyone saw. Phillips stayed beyond the trophy shot. You may stop viewing this as a money fight and start noticing who receives the credit. Subscribe and tell me who you trusted first. Now let us separate the accusation from the partnership behind it. The first problem appears when the supposed legal fight is tested against the public relationship. A genuine lawsuit normally leaves a clear trail through a named plaintiff, a court record, and an explanation of the disputed payment. None of those pieces has surfaced around Dave Phillips and Phil Mickelson. The amount sounds precise, which gives it authority, but precision is not proof. 8 months also feels personal enough to suggest a private breakdown, yet no verified interview, post, filing, or statement ties that line to Phillips. That missing evidence matters because Phillips is not presented publicly as a discarded employee. He is identified as a co-founder of 4Wellness, the company built around products connected to Mickelson's health routine. His role goes beyond food advice. Phillips has spent years working in athletic performance, golf movement, and physical preparation. He also helped establish the Titleist Performance Institute, which made his name familiar inside elite golf long before this story appeared. Reducing him to a nutritionist makes the conflict easier to understand. The label suggests someone who could be hired, ignored, and left unpaid. His actual position as a co-founder points toward shared ownership, continuing responsibilities, and a relationship that would require far more evidence before anyone could describe it as broken. That difference does not remove every possible private disagreement. It simply changes what can be claimed honestly. Phillips's place in Mickelson's story began to matter publicly in 2019 when the golfer's confidence and results were moving in the wrong direction. Mickelson had already built one of the most recognizable careers in golf. His major victories, aggressive shot choices, and willingness to challenge safe convention had made him a star. Age was now testing the same instinct that had defined him. He could accept a gradual decline, or he could attack the problem with a plan that sounded extreme. His response was a hard reset. Mickelson spoke openly about not feeling good about himself or the way he was playing. He then described a 6-day fast built around water and a special coffee mixture. He said he had lost 15 pounds and admitted that he did not know whether the change would improve his golf. The uncertainty made the decision more revealing. This was not a polished endorsement created after success. It was a champion trying something drastic because ordinary adjustments no longer felt sufficient. Phillips stood behind that process as the performance expert helping shape the routine. The coffee mixture later became part of the origin story for 4Wellness. Mickelson supplied the famous face, while Phillips brought technical knowledge and credibility earned through work with elite athletes. Those different strengths gave the partnership its commercial logic. The system had an expert behind it, and a global golf star made the public curious. That balance also created the weakness inside the partnership's public image. Celebrity attention rarely divides itself fairly. A coach may build the method, yet the athlete receives the cameras because the result appears beside his name. Mickelson's transformation became a visible product before the company fully became one. His slimmer frame, public fasting story, and coffee routine gave fans a simple narrative about a veteran fighting age. The early results did not provide an instant miracle. Mickelson's reset was not followed by an immediate return to major dominance. That delay is important because it prevents the wellness story from becoming a false cause and effect claim. His diet did not automatically create a championship, The routine became meaningful later because a historic victory allowed people to look backward and connect every unusual choice to the trophy. That victory arrived at the 2021 PGA Championship on Kiowa Island. Mickelson entered the week as a 50-year-old former champion surrounded by doubt. Brooks Koepka represented the opposite position. He was younger, physically imposing, and already proven under major pressure. Koepka had built his reputation around treating the biggest tournaments as his preferred territory. Mickelson carried experience, crowd affection, and the stubborn belief that decline could still be negotiated. The contrast gave the final round its emotional weight. Koepka looked like the player designed to end the older man's run. Mickelson appeared to be the veteran, trying to hold together 4 days of work against someone who had made major championships feel routine. Their battle was not only about score. Youth confronted age while physical power tested calculated risk, with a career refusing to close quietly on the other side. Mickelson's core instinct never changed during that pressure. He remained willing to take on shots that other players might avoid, but he also showed enough control to keep the round from escaping him. Koepka threatened early, and the margin never allowed complete comfort. Every mistake carried the possibility of turning the day into another story about an aging champion who had come close before reality caught him. The human drama underneath the golf was clearer than any technical detail. Mickelson was trying to prove that reinvention had not been an act of denial. Koepka wanted to stop sentiment from replacing competitive order. Phillips remained outside that visible duel, even though his work had helped shape the physical story attached to Mickelson's presence. By the time Mickelson reached the 18th hole, the crowd had already begun to treat history as complete. Fans surged around him as he walked toward the green. The scene became larger than a tournament finish. It looked like a public coronation, with one generation of golf surrounding a player who had refused to leave the stage. Koepka experienced the same scene from a very different position. He still had a round to finish, and the crowd made that process difficult. He later described contact around his injured knee while trying to move through the mass of people. What felt like celebration around Mickelson became obstruction around the challenger. That contrast sharpened the moment because the spectators were effectively choosing the man they wanted history to belong to. Mickelson completed the victory and became the oldest major champion in men's golf history. The result changed the meaning of everything that had come before it. A desperate-looking fast became part of a successful reinvention. An eccentric coffee mixture gained the glow of a winning habit. Even his weight loss seemed connected to competition once fans placed each detail inside a comeback story with a championship ending. This is where the title's accusation finds its emotional fuel. Phillips had helped build the wellness process, but Mickelson's image absorbed the public reward. Cameras followed Phil, the crowd carried his name, and the record book attached the championship to him alone. Phillips remained part of the origin, yet the final scene offered no obvious space for the man who had helped shape the routine. Social media pushed that imbalance further. The final putt turned one victory into a cultural event. Tiger Woods called the performance inspirational. Tom Brady and other major sports figures joined the celebration. Golfers, athletes, and fans treated Mickelson's win as proof that age could be challenged through belief, preparation, and nerve. The reaction moved the story beyond golf, and Mickelson became the symbol through which everyone understood it. That digital celebration also strengthened his commercial value. Mickelson was no longer only a golfer who drank a special coffee mixture. He was the oldest major champion carrying a wellness story that appeared to have survived the strongest possible test. The company connected to that routine gained attention because its most famous co-founder had created a result nobody expected. The important distinction is that public belief can grow faster than evidence. A major victory can make a routine look scientifically proven even when the tournament itself cannot establish such a thing. Mickelson still had to strike the shots, manage the course, and handle Koepka's pressure. Phillips's system may have supported his preparation, but the trophy cannot verify every health claim attached to the brand. This does not weaken Phillips's contribution. It places that contribution in the correct frame. He helped Mickelson change habits, reconsider physical preparation, and build a repeatable wellness routine. Mickelson then carried that work into competition. The partnership made sense because the coach's expertise and the golfer's fame served different functions. The lawsuit story distorts that relationship by changing each role. Phillips becomes an unpaid nutritionist rather than a co-founder and performance coach. Mickelson becomes a man refusing to settle a clear debt rather than a business partner whose public connection to Phillips remains visible. A vague imbalance turns into a specific legal betrayal, while the unverified ghosting line supplies a private wound. Once those changes are removed, the real tension remains strong enough. Phillips deserves more recognition than many casual fans give him. Mickelson also deserves credit for carrying out the difficult part of the process. Designing a routine is one responsibility. Following it belongs to the athlete. The final round at Kiowa then demanded decisions and execution that no advisor could provide from outside the ropes. That shared responsibility makes simple villain framing difficult. Evidence does not support Mickelson as someone who abandoned a nutritionist over $680,000. Phillips has not been verified as a plaintiff who spent 8 months trying to reach him. The available facts show two men connected through a company and a transformation story that became more valuable after one historic Sunday. The power difference, however, is real. Mickelson entered the partnership with decades of fame, major trophies, sponsor recognition, and one of golf's largest personal followings. Phillips brought expertise respected inside performance circles. Once their story reached the wider public, celebrity naturally became the louder currency. That is why the accusation felt possible before anyone checked it. People already understood who controlled the spotlight. Mickelson's later move to LIV Golf added another layer to that reaction. His name became attached to one of the sport's most divisive changes, and public trust around him fractured. Supporters continued to view him as a bold figure willing to challenge golf's established order. Critics saw a star whose appetite for money and control had overtaken the image built during his PGA Tour career. A claim involving unpaid money could therefore attach itself to suspicions that already existed. That background explains the speed of the outrage, but it cannot replace proof. Controversy in one part of a person's career does not verify an unrelated lawsuit. Mickelson's decisions around LEV may influence how fans judge his character, yet they do not establish that Phillips sued him. The distinction is essential because rage bait works best when old anger is used to make new fiction feel familiar. The strongest version of this story does not need a courtroom. It already contains a champion in decline, a coach working outside the spotlight, a risky physical reset, a commercial brand, a younger major winner standing in the way, and a historic victory that changed the value of every earlier decision. The human conflict comes from recognition rather than litigation. Phillips helped create the conditions for Mickelson's reinvention, but he could not control how the public distributed credit afterward. Mickelson became the symbol because sport reduces complicated work into one visible winner. Coaches, trainers, medical advisors, and family members often disappear when the trophy enters the frame. The same process made the false accusation feel emotionally true, even though its legal details could not be verified. The final truth is less explosive than the title, but it says more about fame. No confirmed nutritionist of 12 years has emerged with a $680,000 claim. A verified statement showing that Mickelson ignored Phillips for 8 months has not appeared. The man closest to that description remains publicly connected to him as a business partner. Once the noise clears, the verified sequence becomes easier to understand. Dave Phillips helped shape a wellness routine during one of Mickelson's lowest competitive periods. Phil turned it into part of his public identity before Brooks Koepka gave the comeback a credible opponent. Kiowa supplied the moment that made the story permanent, and social media placed almost all of the meaning on the golfer holding the trophy. That may feel unfair to Phillips, but unfairness is not the same as theft. Questions about credit deserve attention without being turned into a lawsuit. Keeping that distinction protects the facts without removing the drama. Mickelson's career has always been driven by the belief that the safer path is rarely the most interesting one. The hard reset matched that instinct, and his comeback gave it a historic reward. The legend grew because he took the risk and survived the pressure when the entire golf world expected age to win. Phillips belongs inside that legend, even if the loudest version of the story tried to place him in court. His contribution survives without an invented complaint, and Mickelson's achievement remains extraordinary without turning a business partner into an enemy. The deeper question concerns memory. Golf remembers the champion first, then sometimes forgets the people who made his return possible. That imbalance, not a verified lawsuit, is the bombshell behind this story. Subscribe and tell me where you stand. Did Mickelson earn the right to own the transformation story, or has Dave Phillips remained in the background for too long?